The slap stung more than I expected, a sharp crack that echoed through the airy Hawaiian villa. My mother-in-law, Eleanor, stood over me, her manicured hand trembling with rage, her eyes blazing like she'd just caught me stealing her soul. I stumbled back, my cheek burning, as my husband, Nate, froze in the doorway, his mouth half open, too shocked to intervene. This wasn't supposed to happen. Not here, not in the middle of what was meant to be a dream family vacation on Oahu's North Shore. We'd been married 3 years, and I'd spent every one of them trying to win Eleanor over, swallowing her snide comments about my small-town roots and unambitious career as a freelance graphic designer. She didn't know the truth. Nobody did. While she sneered at my laptop lifestyle, I was quietly pulling in $200,000 a year running an online branding empire, building a name for myself in a world she couldn't even fathom. But that morning, in her pristine vacation home, all that mattered was her accusation. I'd disrespected her family, her legacy, her rules. "You ungrateful little nobody," Eleanor hissed, her voice low and venomous. "You think you can waltz into my house, question my decisions, and ruin my son's future?" Her words dripped with years of pent-up disdain. I dared to suggest we skip one of her meticulously planned family dinners to explore a local night market. Hardly a crime, but to Eleanor, it was a declaration of war. She'd been looking for an excuse to tear me down, and I'd handed it to her. Nate finally stepped forward, his face pale. "Mom, stop it. This is ridiculous." His voice wavered, caught between loyalty to me and the lifelong habit of appeasing his mother. Eleanor didn't even glance at him. She pointed at me, her diamond bracelet glinting in the sunlight. "You're banned from this house. Pack your bags. You're not welcome in Hawaii anymore." I stood there, my heart pounding, the weight of her words sinking in. Banned from her sacred island retreat, the place she'd lorded over like a queen since Nate's father passed a decade ago. I could have laughed at the absurdity if my face didn't still sting. Instead, I straightened, meeting her gaze. "Fine," I said, my voice steady despite the chaos in my chest. "I'll go." But what Eleanor didn't know, what nobody in that room knew, was that I wasn't the powerless nobody she thought I was. I'd built something bigger than her gated estate, her inherited wealth, her suffocating control. And as I turned to pack, a spark of defiance flickered inside me. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The trouble started 2 days earlier, at the welcome luau Eleanor insisted on throwing. The villa's backyard was a tropical paradise, tiki torches flickering, the scent of plumeria heavy in the air, and a spread of poke, kalua pork, and hapia that could have fed a small village. Eleanor, ever the matriarch, presided over it all in a flowing white caftan, her smile as polished as the pearls around her neck. To the guests, her extended family, old friends, and a few local elites, she was the epitome of grace. To me, she was a hawk circling her prey. I tried to play along, wearing the sundress she'd suggested, and keeping my opinions to myself. Nate's sister, Clara, was there too, her husband, Mark, trailing her like a loyal puppy. Clara was Eleanor's mini-me, all sharp edges and superiority, though she lacked her mother's charisma. She'd never liked me either, but she was subtler about it, tossing backhanded compliments like, "You're so authentic, Lily. It's refreshing." I smiled through it, as always, but I was tired. Tired of the charade, tired of pretending I didn't notice their disdain. That night, as the luau wound down, I overheard Eleanor and Clara talking by the pool. "She's holding him back," Eleanor said, her voice low but clear. "Nate could have been running the family trust by now if he hadn't married her." Clara murmured agreement, and my stomach twisted. They weren't just dismissing me. They were rewriting Nate's future without me in it. I didn't confront them. Instead, I slipped back to our guest room, opened my laptop, and lost myself in work. My online business, designing branding packages for startups, was thriving. I just closed a $15,000 deal with a tech company in Seattle, and my inbox was flooded with inquiries. It was my secret weapon, my escape from their judgment. Every dollar I earned was proof I wasn't the failure they thought I was. But I kept it hidden, not out of shame, but because I didn't trust Eleanor not to weaponize it. She'd find a way to twist my success into something vulgar, something beneath her. The next morning, I made my fatal mistake. Over breakfast, Eleanor announced her schedule for the week: family dinners, a yacht trip, a private tour of Pearl Harbor. It was a performance, not a plan, designed to showcase her control. I couldn't help myself. Maybe we could mix things up, I said lightly. There's a night market in Hollywood that sounds fun. The table went silent. Eleanor's smile tightened, and Clara's eyes narrowed. Nate squeezed my hand under the table, a warning. That moment planted the seed for the slap, the ban, the explosion that followed. Eleanor saw my suggestion as defiance, a challenge to her authority. And she wasn't wrong. I was pushing back, just a little, testing the waters. I didn't expect her to erupt. As I packed my suitcase, Nate hovered in the doorway, torn. "Lily, I'm so sorry," he said, his voice thick. "She's out of line. I'll talk to her." But I knew he wouldn't. Nate loved me, but he'd spent his life under Eleanor's thumb, conditioned to avoid conflict. I didn't blame him, not entirely, but it hurt all the same. "I'll be fine," I told him, zipping up my bag. "I'll book a hotel in Waikiki. You stay here, figure this out with your mom." His face crumpled, but he didn't argue. I left the villa without another word, the tropical breeze mocking me as I stepped into the humid afternoon. My phone buzzed with a notification. A new client had just paid a $5,000 deposit. I almost laughed. Eleanor thought she was banishing me to nothing, but I was walking away with everything. In Waikiki, I checked into a sleek boutique hotel, the kind Eleanor would have scoffed at for being touristy. My room overlooked the ocean, and as I stood on the balcony, the weight of the day settled over me. I wasn't just angry, I was done. Done playing small, done hiding who I was. Eleanor wanted to humiliate me? Fine. I'd show her what I was capable of. I opened my laptop and got to work. My business was my power, and I was about to wield it. I didn't know how yet, but I knew one thing for sure. Eleanor had no idea who she was dealing with. And that was her biggest mistake. The ocean sparkled under the Waikiki sunset, a kaleidoscope of pinks and golds that should have calmed me. Instead, my pulse raced as I sat cross-legged on the hotel bed, my laptop glowing with the dashboard of my branding empire. I wasn't just Lily, the small-town girl Eleanor despised. I was a force, and it was time to stop hiding it. My phone buzzed relentlessly. Nate's texts, a mix of apologies and pleas to give Mom time to cool off. I ignored them, not out of spite, but because I needed space to think. Eleanor's slap wasn't just an attack on me. It was a declaration that I didn't belong in her world. She'd spent years dismissing my work, assuming I was scraping by on freelance gigs while Nate carried us. The truth? My online business had outearned his corporate salary for 2 years running. I'd saved every penny, building a nest egg that could buy freedom. Freedom from her rules, from her suffocating grip on our lives. I opened my email and scanned the latest client inquiries. A sustainable fashion brand wanted a full rebrand, logo, website, social media assets. They'd offered $20,000, with a potential bonus for a quick turnaround. I typed a response, my fingers flying, confidence surging. This was my domain, where Eleanor's wealth and status meant nothing. I hit send, then leaned back, a plan forming. I wasn't going to confront her, not yet. I'd let her think she'd won, let her bask in her petty victory. Then I'd show her what power really looked like. The next morning, I woke to a voicemail from Clara, Nate's sister. Her voice was syrupy, laced with fake concern. "Lily, I'm so sorry about Mom. She's just protective. Why don't you come back? We can smooth things over." I deleted it. Clara wasn't sorry. She was Eleanor's envoy, sent to reel me back into their game. I wasn't playing anymore. Instead, I spent the day working. I finalized the fashion brand's contract, sketched logo concepts, and scheduled a call with a tech startup in Austin. By noon, I'd invoiced $8,000 in deposits. The numbers grounded me, each one a reminder of my worth. Eleanor thought she'd banished me to some sad, powerless existence, but I was thriving. Still, the sting of her hand lingered, not just on my cheek, but in my heart. I loved Nate, but his silence during her outburst had cracked something between us. Could I stay with someone who let his mother treat me like that? That afternoon, I took a break and walked along Waikiki Beach. The sand was warm under my feet, the air thick with salt and sunscreen. Tourists laughed, kids built sandcastles, and for a moment, I envied their simplicity. I wanted to call Nate, to hear him say he'd stand up to Eleanor, but my phone stayed in my pocket. Instead, I sat on a bench and watched the waves, letting my thoughts churn. That's when I saw her, Eleanor's friend, Margaret, a local real estate mogul who'd been at the luau. She was sipping a Mai Tai at a beachside cafe, her laughter carrying over the hum of the crowd. Margaret had always been kinder to me than Eleanor, offering small compliments on my artistic side. She didn't know about my business either, but she'd once mentioned her own side hustle, flipping vacation rentals. An idea sparked. I approached her table, forcing a smile. "Margaret, hi. Mind if I join you?" She looked surprised, but waved me to a seat. We chatted about the island, the weather, anything but the drama. Then, casually, I mentioned my work. "I've been doing some branding for startups," I said. "It's taken off lately. Keeps me busy." Her eyes lit up. "Branding? Oh, I could use that. I'm launching a new rental property next month, and the marketing's a mess." Before I knew it, I'd pitched her a full branding package, logo, website, social media. She was hooked. By the time we parted, I had a verbal agreement for a $12,000 project. More than that, I had an ally. Margaret wasn't just Eleanor's friend. She was a player in Hawaii's elite circles, someone whose opinion carried weight. If I could impress her, word would spread. And if Eleanor caught wind of it, even better. Back at the hotel, I dove into Margaret's project, sketching ideas for a sleek, tropical-inspired logo. My phone buzzed again. "Nate," this time with a longer message. "I talked to Mom. She's still mad, but I think she'll come around. Please come back, Lily. I need you here." My heart ached, but I didn't reply. I needed more than promises. I needed him to choose me, to stand up to Eleanor in a way that wasn't just words. As night fell, I got an email from the fashion brand. They loved my initial concepts and wanted to move forward. Another $10,000 deposit hit my account. I stared at the numbers, a mix of pride and defiance swelling in my chest. Eleanor thought she could break me, but she'd only pushed me to fight harder. I wasn't just surviving. I was building something unstoppable. But the victory felt hollow without Nate by my side. I loved him, loved the man he was when his mother wasn't pulling the strings. Could he break free? Or was I fighting a losing battle, not just with Eleanor, but with the life we'd built together? I didn't have answers, but I had work to do. And for now, that was enough. The Honolulu skyline glittered outside my hotel window, but my world felt like it was fracturing. I'd spent 3 days in Waikiki, burying myself in work to drown out the echo of Eleanor's slap and Nate's silence. My online empire was humming, $30,000 in new contracts since I'd left the villa, but success didn't erase the ache of being cast out, of being unseen by the family I tried so hard to join. I opened my laptop, the glow illuminating the darkroom. Margaret's branding project was coming together, a logo with clean lines and vibrant coral hues, a website mock-up that screamed luxury. She'd texted earlier, thrilled with the progress, and hinted at introducing me to her network. It was a foothold in Eleanor's world, a chance to prove I wasn't the nobody she thought. But every email I sent, every sketch I finished, was laced with defiance. I wasn't just building a brand, I was building a case against her. Nate called that morning, his voice heavy with guilt. "Lily, I'm coming to see you. We need to talk." I agreed, but my stomach knotted. I wanted him to fight for me, but I wasn't sure he could. When he arrived at the hotel, he looked wrecked, dark circles under his eyes, his usual easy smile gone. We sat on the balcony, the ocean breeze doing little to ease the tension. "I'm sorry," he started, his hands twisting together. Mom was way out of line. I should have stopped her. I waited, letting the silence press him. I told her she can't treat you like that. But she's stubborn. You know how she is. "Do I?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. "Nate, she slapped me. She banned me from her house. And you just stood there." His face crumpled, but I kept going. "I've spent years trying to fit into your family, and all I get is contempt. I'm done begging for their approval." He reached for my hand, but I pulled back. "I'm not choosing her over you," he said, desperation creeping in. I love you. I'll fix this. But his words felt like echoes of promises he couldn't keep. I wanted to believe him, but love wasn't enough if he couldn't stand up to Eleanor's control. That afternoon, I met Margaret for coffee at a sleek cafe in Kahala. She was all warmth, gushing about the logo and asking for my input on a promotional video. "You're a gem, Lily," she said, sipping her latte. "Eleanor's missing out, not seeing what you bring to the table." I smiled, masking the sting of her words. Margaret didn't know the half of it, but her validation felt like a lifeline. As we talked, she mentioned a charity gala she was co-hosting. A glitzy event for Hawaii's elite, the kind of thing Eleanor lived for. "You should come," Margaret said. "Bring Nate. It'd be good for you both." My pulse quickened. Showing up at a gala, on Margaret's arm no less, would be a direct challenge to Eleanor's ban. It was risky, but it was also a chance to rewrite the narrative. I wasn't the outcast, she was the one who'd underestimated me. I spent the rest of the day working, my mind buzzing with possibilities. By evening, I'd finished Margaret's website mock-up and sent it off, earning a gushing reply. "You're a genius. Let's talk gala details tomorrow." I leaned back, adrenaline surging. This was my move, bold, calculated, and entirely mine. But as I closed my laptop, doubt crept in. Nate hadn't texted since our talk, and the silence felt heavy. Was I fighting for a marriage that was already slipping away? I loved him, but love didn't mean blind loyalty. If he couldn't break free from Eleanor, what future did we have? That night, I couldn't sleep. I paced the hotel room, the hum of the city below a faint distraction. My phone lit up with an email, another client, a fitness app, offering $18,000 for a branding overhaul. I accepted without hesitation, the numbers fueling my resolve. I wasn't just surviving Eleanor's attack. I was outpacing her, building a life she couldn't touch. But the gala loomed large. If I went, it would be a declaration of war. Eleanor would be there, no doubt, her influence woven into every guest and conversation. Showing up with Margaret's backing would send a message. I wasn't gone, and I wasn't broken. But it also meant risking everything. Nate's loyalty, my place in his family, maybe even our marriage. I stood on the balcony, the night air warm against my skin. The ocean stretched endless before me, a reminder of how small Eleanor's world really was. She thought she'd crushed me, but she'd only set me free. Tomorrow, I'd decide my next move. For now, I let the sound of the waves drown out the noise in my head, focusing on one truth. I was stronger than she'd ever know. The gala invitation from Margaret burned in my inbox like a dare. I could see it now, walking into that glittering ballroom, head high, with Nate by my side, or without him, if it came to that. Eleanor's world would choke on the sight of me thriving, but the thought of her rage sent a shiver through me. This wasn't just about proving her wrong, it was about reclaiming my life. I met Nate for dinner at a quiet restaurant near the hotel. He looked nervous, his fingers drumming on the table as he tried to bridge the gap between us. "I told Mom I'm staying with you, no matter what," he said, his eyes searching mine. "She's furious, but I don't care. I want us to fix this." His words stirred something in me. Hope, maybe, but I wasn't ready to trust them. "Then come to the gala with me," I said, testing him. "Margaret invited us. It's a chance to show your mom I'm not going anywhere." He hesitated, and that pause told me everything. "Lily, she'll be there. It'll be a scene." I leaned forward, my voice low. "Good. Let it be." He agreed, reluctantly, but I could feel the weight of his doubt. I didn't push him further. Instead, I spent the next day preparing. I bought a sleek, emerald green dress that hugged my curves, the kind of bold choice Eleanor would hate. I finalized Margaret's branding package, delivering it a day early, and her response was ecstatic. "You're a superstar. See you at the gala." My business was soaring. Another $10,000 contract landed that afternoon, but my heart was a battlefield. Nate's loyalty hung by a thread, and I was about to walk into the lion's den. The gala was held at a waterfront estate, all glass and marble, with chandeliers casting light like scattered stars. Margaret greeted me at the entrance, her silver gown catching the glow. "Lily, you look stunning," she said, looping her arm through mine. Nate stood beside me, stiff in his tux, his eyes scanning the crowd for his mother. I felt the weight of every stare as we entered, whispers trailing us like smoke. I wasn't just the banished daughter-in-law. I was Margaret's guest, a rising star in her orbit. Then I saw Eleanor. She stood near the bar, her black dress severe, her posture rigid as she chatted with a cluster of socialites. Her eyes locked onto mine, and the air seemed to thicken. She excused herself and strode toward us, her face a mask of controlled fury. "What is she doing here?" she hissed at Margaret, ignoring me entirely. Margaret didn't flinch. "Lily's my guest, Eleanor. She's doing some incredible work for me." Eleanor's gaze flicked to me, venomous. "Work? She's a glorified doodler." I stepped forward, my voice calm but firm. "I'm a brand strategist, Eleanor. My clients pay me six figures to build their businesses. Maybe you should ask Margaret about the project I just finished for her." Margaret nodded, her smile sharp. "She's brilliant, Eleanor. You'd know that if you gave her a chance." Eleanor's face tightened, but before she could respond, Nate spoke up. "Mom, enough. Lily's my wife, and I'm proud of her. You need to stop." The room seemed to hold its breath. Eleanor stared at him, her lips parting in disbelief. For the first time, I saw a crack in her armor. Her son, her golden boy, was choosing me. But she recovered quickly, her voice icy. "You're making a mistake, Nathan. She'll drag you down." She turned and walked away, her heels clicking like a countdown. Nate's hand found mine, his grip tight. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I mean it this time. I'm with you." My chest ached with relief, but I wasn't naive. Words were easy, actions were harder. Still, his stand felt like a turning point, a fragile bridge we might rebuild. Margaret pulled me aside later, her eyes gleaming. "You've got fire, Lily. I'm introducing you to my partners tomorrow. They need your talent." I thanked her, my mind racing. This was more than a victory over Eleanor. It was a doorway to a new life, one where I didn't need her approval or her island. But as the night wore on, I caught Eleanor watching me from across the room, her expression unreadable. She wasn't done with me yet, and I knew it. Eleanor's shadow lingered over the gala, even after she stormed off. I felt her presence in every sidelong glance, every whispered conversation among her circle. But I held my ground, laughing with Margaret's partners, pitching my branding expertise with a confidence I hadn't felt in years. Nate stayed close, his hand brushing mine, a quiet promise that he was trying. Yet, as the night ended, I couldn't shake the feeling that Eleanor was plotting her next move. The next morning, I woke to a text from Clara. "You humiliated Mom last night. You're tearing this family apart." I stared at the words, my anger flaring. Me? I'd only defended myself, carved out a space in a world that wanted me gone. I didn't reply. Instead, I threw myself into work, finalizing a $25,000 deal with one of Margaret's partners for a resort chain's rebrand. The numbers were climbing, my reputation spreading, but the cost was becoming clearer. Eleanor's wrath wasn't just personal. It was a campaign to erase me. Nate suggested we meet his mother for lunch, a chance to clear the air. I agreed, not because I wanted peace, but because I needed to see her face to face, to gauge how far she'd go. We met at a cliffside restaurant, the Pacific stretching endless below. Eleanor sat regal, her eyes cold as she sipped her iced tea. "I underestimated you," she said, her voice low. "But don't mistake my son's loyalty for weakness. He'll see you for what you are." I leaned forward, my voice steady. "And what am I, Eleanor? A threat to your control? Or just someone who won't bow to you?" Nate tensed beside me, but he didn't interrupt. Eleanor's smile was razor thin. "You're a distraction." Nate was meant for more than this. She gestured at me, dismissive. I laughed, sharp and deliberate. "You have no idea what I'm capable of, or what I've built." She raised an eyebrow, skeptical, but I didn't elaborate. Let her think I was bluffing. The truth, my $200,000 a year empire, was my ace, and I'd play it when the time was right. Nate finally spoke, his voice firm. "Mom, I'm not leaving Lily. If you can't accept her, you're pushing me away too." Eleanor's face froze, and for a moment, I saw something new in her eyes, fear. Not of me, but of losing him. After lunch, I met Margaret's partners at their downtown office. They were impressed, offering me a $40,000 contract to oversee branding for their entire portfolio. I accepted, my mind racing with possibilities. This wasn't just money. It was influence, a chance to build a name that could rival Eleanor's in her own backyard. But as I left the meeting, my phone buzzed with an email from an unknown sender. You don't belong here. Leave before you regret it. My stomach dropped. The tone was too familiar, too venomous. Was it Eleanor? Clara? Or someone else in their orbit, doing her bidding? I showed Nate, and his face darkened. This isn't Mom, he said, but he didn't sound convinced. I'll find out who sent it. I nodded, but unease settled in my chest. Eleanor's reach was long, and I was playing a dangerous game. That night, I worked late, sketching logos and answering client emails. My business was my shield, my proof that I was more than Eleanor's punching bag. But as I closed my laptop, exhaustion hit. I missed the simplicity of my life before Hawaii, before this war with a woman who saw me as nothing. Nate was trying, but was it enough? Could we rebuild when his family was determined to tear us apart? I stood on the hotel balcony, the city lights blurring below. The anonymous email echoed in my mind, a reminder that Eleanor wasn't done. But neither was I. I'd come too far to back down now, and if she wanted a fight, I'd give her one she'd never forget. The anonymous email gnawed at me, a splinter I couldn't pull out. I sat in my hotel room, the hum of Waikiki muted beyond the glass. My laptop opened to a new client proposal worth $15,000. Work was my anchor, but the threat, leave before you regret it, hung like a storm cloud. Was Eleanor behind it? Or had I underestimated Clara's spite? Either way, I wasn't running. Nate spent the morning calling family friends, trying to trace the email. He came back grim-faced. Nobody's talking, he said, slumping onto the bed. But I know Mom's involved. She's been rallying people against you. His admission hit hard, not because it surprised me, but because it confirmed what I'd feared. Eleanor wasn't just fighting me. She was waging war on our marriage. I touched his hand, my voice soft but firm. Nate, we can't keep doing this halfway. You're either with me or you're not. He looked at me, his eyes raw. I'm with you, Lily. I swear it. But promises were fragile, and I needed action. I told him about the gala, Margaret's partners, my growing contracts. His jaw dropped when I mentioned the $200,000 I'd earned last year. Why didn't you tell me? He asked, hurt flickering in his voice. I sighed. Because I didn't want your mom to use it against me. She'd call it vulgar, say I was chasing money instead of family values. He nodded, understanding but stung. I wish you'd trusted me. The words hung between us, a reminder of the cracks we hadn't mended. But before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Margaret, inviting me to a networking event with Hawaii's top entrepreneurs. Bring Nate, she added. Show them you're a power couple. I showed him the text, and he nodded, a spark of resolve in his eyes. Let's do it. The event was at a rooftop lounge, all sleek glass and tropical cocktails. Margaret introduced me to CEOs, investors, even a local politician, each one intrigued by my branding work. I pitched effortlessly, my confidence fueled by months of quiet victories. Nate stayed by my side, charming but letting me shine. For the first time, we felt like a team, not a man torn between his wife and his mother. But Eleanor's influence lingered. Halfway through the night, a woman in a tailored suit, Lila, a friend of Clara's, approached me. You're making waves, she said, her smile tight. But you're stepping on toes. Eleanor's not happy. I met her gaze, unflinching. Eleanor doesn't get to decide my place here. Lila's eyes narrowed, but she backed off, her warning clear. I was being watched. Later, Margaret pulled me aside. I heard about the email, she said, her voice low. Eleanor's spreading rumors, saying you're unstable, that you're using Nate for his money. I laughed bitterly. She has no idea I'm out-earning her precious trust fund. Margaret's eyes widened, then softened. Then show her, Lily. Show them all. That night, I made a decision. I'd been playing defense, reacting to Eleanor's attacks. It was time to go on the offensive. I drafted an email to Margaret's partners, proposing a bold new project, a branding campaign for a local nonprofit, pro bono, to cement my reputation as more than a doodler. It was a calculated move, generous, visible, and impossible for Eleanor to spin against me. As we left the event, Nate pulled me close, his voice fierce. I'm done letting Mom control us. Let's go back to the mainland, start fresh. Just you and me. My heart leapt, but doubt lingered. Could he really break free? I nodded, squeezing his hand. Let's see this through first. I'm not leaving until I've won. Back at the hotel, I checked my email. The nonprofit loved my pitch, and Margaret's partners were on board. My business was soaring, but the real battle was just beginning. Eleanor thought she could scare me off, but she'd underestimated the woman she'd slapped. I was ready to fight, not just for me, but for the life Nate and I could build, free from her shadow. The nonprofit campaign launched with a blaze of publicity. My branding work, sleek logos, a vibrant website, and a social media push transformed their small outreach into a viral sensation. Local news covered it, Margaret's partners raved, and my name spread through Hawaii's elite like wildfire. I stood in my hotel room, watching a TV segment featuring my designs, my chest tight with pride. Eleanor's ban had meant to break me, but I was rising, unstoppable. Nate watched too, his arm around me. "You're incredible," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I didn't realize how much you were holding back." I leaned into him, the warmth of his support a balm after weeks of tension. But the victory was bittersweet. Eleanor hadn't surfaced since the gala, but her silence felt like the calm before a storm. I knew she was out there, plotting, her pride wounded by my defiance. That afternoon, Margaret called. "You've got everyone talking, Lily. The nonprofit's board wants you at their next event, a fundraiser at the Royal Hawaiian. It's huge." My heart raced. The Royal Hawaiian was Eleanor's territory, her favorite venue for flaunting her status. Showing up would be the ultimate checkmate. "I'm in," I said, my voice steady. Nate agreed to come, his jaw set. This time, I'm not letting Mom ruin it. The fundraiser was a spectacle. Pink stucco walls, crystal chandeliers, and a sea of Hawaii's wealthiest in black tie attire. I wore a crimson gown, bold and unapologetic, my arm linked with Nate's. Margaret introduced me to the board, who gushed over my work. "You've put us on the map," one said, shaking my hand. I smiled, but my eyes scanned the room. Eleanor was there, near the stage, her face a mask of composure. Clara stood beside her, whispering, her glare fixed on me. As the night progressed, I mingled, my confidence growing with every compliment. But then Eleanor took the stage, her voice smooth as she announced a surprise donation from her family trust. The crowd applauded, and her eyes found mine, a challenge gleaming in them. She was reasserting her dominance, reminding everyone who held the real power. I could have let it slide, but something snapped. When the board invited me to speak about the campaign, I stepped up, my heart pounding. "I'm honored to be here," I began, my voice clear. "This project was personal for me. I know what it's like to be underestimated, to be told you don't belong. But I believe in building something meaningful, in lifting others up, no matter who tries to tear you down." The crowd murmured, sensing the subtext. Eleanor's smile froze. After my speech, the room buzzed. People approached me, offering business cards, partnerships, even a TV interview. Margaret beamed, whispering, "You just stole the show." But as I turned, Eleanor was there, her face inches from mine. "You think you've won?" she hissed. "You're nothing without my son." I met her gaze, unflinching. "I'm everything, Eleanor. And I don't need your approval, or your island." Nate stepped between us, his voice low but firm. "That's enough, Mom. Lily's my wife, and I choose her. If you can't accept that, we're done here." Eleanor's eyes widened, her control slipping. She turned and left, Clara trailing her, the crowd parting like a sea. We flew home to the mainland the next day, leaving Hawaii behind. My business soared, $50,000 in new contracts from the fundraiser alone, but the real victory was us. Nate had chosen me, not just in words but in action, standing against his mother's empire. We started fresh, renting a small house in Oregon, far from Eleanor's reach. She never contacted us again, her silence louder than any apology. As I sat in our new home, my laptop open to a client's glowing review, I felt free. Eleanor had tried to destroy me, but she'd only pushed me to become who I was meant to be. I wasn't just the woman she'd slapped. I was Lily, the one who'd built an empire, saved a marriage, and walked away stronger than ever.